Hey guys, how y'all doing? My name is Kieran, and this is Fox Off RPG. So today we're going to be having a look at a game called Across a Thousand Dead Worlds. This is another game by Alex T, published by his own publishing company called Blackoath Entertainment. It's a small indie company, and he's pretty much a solo creator. He designed the rules and all the writing for this game. There's going to be other people who added to this game. You have the cover art by Vladimir Manchel. I can't pronounce his name, I'm very sorry. You have interior art designers, graphic art designers, editing, and product management. Again, I love Alex's work. I'm a fan. I recently interviewed him on the channel a couple of weeks ago. I will link a description and in the comment where you can find that. Also might have it up in the top right corner. If you want to look at that, you can. I also reviewed a couple, maybe 2 months ago, Sacrifice, an Incense and Iron RPG. It's an excellent OSR system, compatible with any of your like OD&D, AD&D, other OSR type adventures if you want to run that with it. It has its own sort of contained world and how everything works. Again, you can find links for all that stuff on the channel. Now, before we get into this, I just want to thank yet again everyone who's checking out my videos. It's absolutely amazing that you're all doing it. I can't get over it. It's just crazy. I was talking to my fiance about this, and she can't believe anyone wants to listen to me. I don't know what that says, but you know, she doesn't understand all this stuff, which I'm more than fine with. You know, I don't need her to. We have our own little hobbies and stuff, so that's great. If she wants to play, she can play. I don't mind. I don't mind that either, you know. But yeah. I will leave a link in the description and a pinned comment where you can find my X account if you want to follow me there. I'm going to leave my Discord link. I only created like a week and a half ago, so it's still very new. But if you want, you can post what's going on in your normal day, everyday life. You can ask questions. You can talk about video games, RPGs, books, movies, anything you want. I have a bunch of channels open on it, so you can use them. There's going to be voice channels. If anyone wants more, I'll happily add them. I'll leave a link in the description where you can find that as well. I'll also leave the link in the description where you can find this on Alex's website, Blackoath Entertainment. I'll also leave a link for my affiliate link if you ever want to get anything from DriveThruRPG or any of the other drive-thru affiliates. So that's going to include Wargame Vault for like your war games and skirmish games and army games, stuff like that. It'll work with drive-thru fiction, cards, comics, everything. So if you do that, it gives me a little kickback and helps massively out with the channel. And of course, as always, if there's anything you want me to look at and I have it, I'll look at it, and if I don't, I'll try and get it at some stage, especially if it does interest me. I'll of course look at it. Of course, if I do that, that might take me some time to end up having a look at it, because I do like to play things when I review them or have a look at. And if I don't play them, I will say I haven't played it, but I do like to look at the feel of all this. Again, this game I have played a lot of. I got this on the Kickstarter. I think it was a Kickstarter I got it on, or I got on the backer kit after Kickstarter ended. But yeah, I've had it since 2023. I think that's around the time when the physical book came. The offset, it's amazing. I don't think you can get the offset anymore, but there is ways to get a print on demand copy. It is kind of expensive, pretty expensive, but it's an excellent game, and I'll tell you why in this review, obviously. But yeah, let's get into this. So basically, Across a Thousand Dead Worlds is a sci-fi space game. In this review, we're going to have a look at a couple sections, because this book is 446 pages long. We're not going to go over everything. I'm going to go over some key parts like character creation, playing the game, like stuff like combat, how things work, a little bit on how you want to run the game, and there is a system for creating bad guys essentially, and it's going to have stuff like known threats and guardians, and I'll explain what all this stuff means. And the game does include 2 cool scenarios. I won't look at those scenarios, but maybe we'll have a run down through them. But yeah, I want to also say this is the game that got me back into RPG games. So I owe Alex a lot, I think. Yeah, it's so good. Like this game, you can play solo. You can play with up to 5 other people. You can play with one person and a DM, and up to 4 NPC quote unquote player characters. And we'll go through how that works and how you can create them later on in the game as well. So we're going to cover quite a lot of stuff here. So basically, the whole premise of this game is Drake Industries is after taking over Karam Station. Karam Station is a long abandoned and unknown origin space station. Essentially, it comes from an ancient people or group called Ashad or Ashid. It's an ancient Scottish Gaelic word that was named after basically the people who found it were Scottish. Very little is known about these people, what's going on, and who they are. When it comes to Ashid people, or Ashid, no one really knows anything about them, where they come from. All they know is they're highly pragmatic, highly intelligent. They think they're extremely tall. And the Drake company that's after taking this over, Drake Industries, they are like basically the evil corporation guys. They don't really care about their employees. They're going to throw people out into the wild and be like, go to this planet. It's going to take you X amount of time to get there. It could be days, could be weeks, could be months. And there's going to be RPG stuff for everything. So you can do travel. They're going to have events that are going to happen, social stuff, disasters, ongoing issues, mental stress, everything that goes on there. Then you're going to land on a planet or a location. You're going to have like either pre-mapped out what it is, or you're going to discover as you go along. You're going to do hex exploration to get from area to area. I think the hexes in this are 30 kilometers long, which works out to be something like 24 miles, so about 24 mile hexes. And you can do exploration, you can do combat. You know, maybe you come across a planet which it's completely barren. You don't know what's going on. You have to keep an eye on your food. You have to keep an eye on your resources like air, weaponry. While you're there, like there's a lot going on here, but it's absolutely amazing. I love it. And we're going to talk about creating the character. So character creation is very simple, very straightforward. You're going to have 6 attribute points: strength, dexterity, constitution, will, intelligence, and charisma. Each of these is going to start out with 8 points in them already. Then you have 12 further points. You can point to any of these attributes at all. These 12 attribute points, like you can have up to 18 in one attribute. So you can have like an 18 dex, but then you only have 2 points to put into anything else. So maybe don't do that. And then you're going to have secondary attributes, which are going to be luck, stamina, stress, and wounds. So your luck is basically going to be, the way I've described it to people is, think of Final Destination. So in Final Destination, the movies, I know it sounds weird. So in Final Destination, the movies, the players, or the people, they keep not dying, or they missed a point of when they're supposed to die. I'd like to think of that, the luck is like that. So your character is about to die, about to be hit by something or an attack. They failed a check and it backfired. You know, a malfunction happened and it caused them to die. You can then use your luck to then negate that or cause a reroll. Then you have your stamina. Now, stamina gets used up in combat when you're doing things. So actions cause stamina to happen, the stamina loss to happen. Depending on what the action is, it's going to have a different amount of stamina to be taken. And it's kind of simulating you're in a stressful situation, you're fighting, you're running around, you're trying to do things, your adrenaline's up, you run out of breath very quickly, you know, you get worried. And then your stress is very interesting. So your stress in this is anytime you do something, so you're going to board your spaceship, your space shuttle, to go to a planet, that's going to give you some points in stress. You enter a combat, you're going to gain some stress. There's a chart of what gives you stress, but then stress has to be alleviated. When you build up certain amount of stress, you can then roll off on a chart, and that could be like one of them is going to be blow off steam. So basically you start screaming, shouting, you're fighting with someone, but then you blow off like I think it's 10 stress. But then maybe that alerts other people or creatures around you, but every time someone argues, that accumulates stress for other people. So it's like it's a cool loop. But when you build up enough stress as well, you can then gain sort of negative ticks or attributes as well. I limit them because you could very quickly end up with 3-4 of these, and depending how things go out. And then you have wounds. How wounds are done, it talks about it on a letter page, but basically you can take up to 3 wounds before your character dies. So you can have your fingers get crushed or your hand gets crushed. That also has an effect of giving you a wound on top of you now have a combat skill that has reduced by 5 points, and there's a good few of them. And then you have your actual skills. So your Ashadid, technology, close combat, manipulation, medical aid, perception, pilot, range combat, resolve, science, stealth, survival, and technology. These are all going to be skills you can use in the game when doing things. And then you're going to have talents. So here, like it recommends starting with the following talents. If you're a close combat expert, like you should have these type of talents. If you're a range fighter, stealthy attacker, support, a lead, or a hacker, just for common sense. You can either roll or you can choose, up to the DM. And then you have backgrounds. So backgrounds are basically going to be what you were doing before you came to the station. It gives you 10 of these. It gives you a warlord, a petty criminal, a hacker, and a life-changing event. So let's say you're a data miner. You're obviously going to have, your site. You get to choose your science or technology. 1 point in either of these. Maybe you also, since you're a data miner, you know how to hack. You have that as well. You then have a life-changing event. You roll off, or you can pick, like you got caught doing something terrible, and then you got money through illicit ways, and that's how you got onto the station. Pretty simple and straightforward. And talks about drives for your character. Of course, you can come up with your own because there's nothing really attached to them. And again, with who your character was here, if you only use any of the backgrounds, you can say I'm a this type of person. I've done this job, whatever, and then you choose something that's more closely related to it, or talk to your GM to decide what could be. Like any game, pretty simple, straightforward stuff here. You have with the drives, basically what you're looking for, mannerism, the sort of stuff your characters can do, or how they act with different situations. And you have nervous tics. This is what we talked about a little bit earlier. When stress gets built up, you can gain other tics. So let's say you're humming. You roll an 8 on this, you're humming when you have enough stress build up. But if you're trying to hide from something, or you're trying to get a character constantly humming, it's going to not be very quiet. Your characters in this are also called delvers. So the reason they're called delvers is sort of like a throwback to the deep delvers, who basically went to the bottom of the ocean in decades past. It sort of has that same feel to it, and spacesuits are kind of designed in the similar way. And so you have Drake coins. This is the currency you're going to have. So you're going to start off with 2d20 multiplied by 100. So you can have up to, I think it's 4,000 coins, and that's going to use to basically for equipment stuff. You can start off with more weapons, or more rations and stuff like that. Improving your character. So when you're improving your character, it's very straightforward and simple. You don't really gain experience through like killing things or fighting. You're going to gain points through gathering basically resources from the planets or facilities you're visiting. Once you reach 1,000, it doesn't have to be in one go. Like it says here, you can do 100 at a time, 300, 900, it doesn't matter. But once you reach 1,000, you then gain a level, and it says here, when you increase your level, you gain the following benefits. Every level grants you one roll on the talent table, so you gain a new talent. That's pretty cool. On even levels, 2, 4, 6, 8, etc., you gain an extra skill point. Every 3 levels, so 3, 6, 9, 12, you gain an attribute point. And now your attributes are all capped at 18. So you can't have a 19 anything, basically. And yeah, very straightforward. Before we get into the rules, I want to say how I originally ran this. I played with 2 people and myself. So we had a 3-player game. So I was a DM. I had 2 people. They were play characters, and we had a 1 NPC player, quote player. And instead of going to all the station stuff and all that, I basically started out the game off. They were en route to a mining planet where there was distress call, but they haven't been able to pick up any responses. It's just the same distress call. I basically created Dead Space. If anyone's familiar with Dead Space, it's a horror survival game. Perfect setting for this. So I created a bunch of creatures, and the creature creation in this is very simple. It's very quick. Well, it's pretty quick, but what I did is I created a couple creatures in one go before I played the game, and everyone landed down. I had something go wrong with the ship. They didn't have enough supplies to fix it because it was sort of a rare issue, and they need to go and search for more supplies. But they're also there to look and repair the communication array to see what's wrong. They don't know there's monsters around, basically. Also, in this, there's going to be rules for dismemberment, and when I read that in this, that's like why I sort of like I'm going to play Dead Space, because in Dead Space you need to dismember the creatures to fully kill them. So it's just so obvious to me. But yeah, that's how I played it. It was lots of fun. I think I played 2.5 games. Basically end up dying. Had them leave the station, the mining station. They went somewhere else, and then they kind of died. But yeah, it's great. In this, it gives you lots of ways to create anything. You can create alien, going to be parasitic stuff in this. So you can literally create alien, you can create predator, you can create anything you want. If you like any cool books or video games, you can do that. Or you can just completely random roll everything out and be like, okay, cool. This is a totally new thing I've never come across before. The creature creation of this is amazing as well. We'll go across this later. But let's get back into the actual rules for the game. So attribute checks are going to be very simple. And so are skill checks. So attribute checks, you're going to just simply roll d20. You're going to add your attribute to it, and once it reaches 20 or more, you pass. Very simple, straightforward. But then you're also going to have difficulty modifiers, which you can then roll randomly, or you can then select as a GM. We'll go over that now a little bit. Skill checks, again, very simple. Pretty much the same thing. There's just no real difference. Again, once you reach 20 or more, it's then an automatic pass. For the most part, you can then have difficulty modifiers. That can be assigned by the DM, or we randomly roll on a chart we can come across now on the wall. Advantage, disadvantage is very simple. Roll 2d20. Disadvantage, you take the lowest. Advantage, you take the highest. Opposed checks, so you have 2 NPCs or 2 characters, or a character and NPC fighting. So say if the stress builds up on one of these characters, they explode, they let loose, they're very angry at everyone, the character starts role-playing it out. Stress then builds up between other characters, and maybe they try to calm them down, they grab onto them, and then they start fighting, start grappling. Okay, you're going to have 2 opposed strength checks. Whoever gets the highest roll wins. Simple as. Then talks about skill actions. It gives an example, like if a character wants to run and jump across something, you got to do a dex check. Basically using your attribute points to do things, essentially. Common sense, like you do with any other game. You can have assistance on doing skill checks. When these conditions are met, you then receive a +2 to any check. So maybe someone's trying to hack into something, maybe a big solid door that's closed, you're trying to hack into it, maybe another character also knows a little hacking. If they meet the required attributes, they can help. And then you have the difficulty modifier, which basically works as, so say if I had a 5 in a skill I'm using, I need to hit 20 exactly. Okay. Child's play is a +15. I automatically succeed no matter what. That's where it goes. But let's say I have 5 in a skill, I roll a 1, I need to hit 20, but it was an effortless, I still don't pass. If normal, there's no benefit, but if it's a demanding thing, you then have a -5. So say if I roll a 15 and I have a 5 and something, that's a 20. But then with the -5, it's down to 15. I don't meet the 20 roll required to pass. I do not pass. It's very simple. Critical failures, roll a 1, automatic failure, roll a 20, automatic crit. Pretty simple, straightforward, normal stuff here. Combat. Now, there's two kinds of combat. There's essentially gridded combat, which you can use with miniatures, tokens. You could use pencil erasers, sharpeners, or anything you wanted. You could get tokens you printed off from your computer, use that. You use coins, doesn't matter. And basically talks about how combat also works and the process. If you're installed, what's going to happen here, and then here's the combat chart. And that's if you're using this one. There's another one which is called, I think it's squared combat. We'll go across that now in a little bit, but it's basically, I theater of the mind. That's basically I'm going to describe it. Is you're so far away, the enemy moves closer. You're now say it's going to be easier for you to then shoot the target. You're going to do theater of the mind, and pretty much everyone's. I think most people know what I mean when I say theater of the mind. It's the way I think most people have actually played D&D historically. So it's going to be, or in other RPG games. I say D&D because have it. You're also going to have cover. You can then roll for this, or it can be predetermined by the DM. So you're going to roll 1d20, and this is the type of cover you're going to get. It's going to give lots of different variety, and of course, if you get simple cover, you can decide you want to add more to it. You're going to have full cover and partial cover. So partial cover is going to give a -2 to any attacks or checks you're trying to do or be done to you, and a full is a -5. Or you can say they just can't hit you, or you can't hit the target. Maybe throw a grenade, you can blow something up. And it talks about combat grid, placement where everything comes in, the surprise. It basically can be play it as a mini skirmish game if you wish, which is pretty cool, pretty fun. I've played both ways. It's pretty straightforward. Initiative, roll d20, a d10 I mean, and if you have any bonuses to speed, you then activate that. Just on surprise charts, if you want to roll on that, this is great for solo play, or again, if what Alex describes it is lazy GM and solo rules. So if you don't want to decide things, you can kind of just whatever, roll this, there you go. And then it talks about stamina. Okay, different actions will use different amount of stamina. So standard attack is going to use up 5 stamina. Heavy attack, 8 stamina. And because you do the same attack roll with your weapon. So say if you have a bat, you attack with a bat, but you do a heavy attack, you're going to add 1d6. Fast attack is going to be quick and light, but you do -2 to your combat skill. And there's this other stuff like that here. Combat stances. This is going to be how basically interaction has basically a little chart here. So defensive stance, there's going to be a -2 to initiative, +6 to stamina, -4 to attack, and +4 to defense. Now, I do say this is an optional rule. I didn't use this really. Alex talks about in this. I might have gone past this actually, but if there's rules in this that you do not like, do not use them. And there is some in here which he deliberately says do not use until you're familiar with the system. That's fine with me. I think I used most of the rules in this. And you have the hit locations. Hit locations are going to be great. You're going to have it talks about a humanoid, quadruped or sexpoid, serpentine, and the areas you can hit. So if you're going to hit in the feet, it's basically a -1 damage modifier. Waist, hand, arm, torso, or waist, arms, and hand, it's going to be a 0. Torso, back, and head, a +1, 2, and 3 to the damage modifier. Again, you do not have to use this, but if you want, you can. Again, like any rule in this, If you just want to keep the combat a bit more straightforward, you don't have to keep track of hit location stuff. You don't have to. Again, that's just something that's there. It has defensive maneuvers, and you go. Defensive maneuvers, you can basically spend stamina to then dodge. So it's a modifier -1. Armor is super simple. So say if you have armor on your body and you're being attacked by something, it does 6 points of damage. The armor you has a negating effect of 3. Okay, that 6 damage now becomes 3 points of damage. But if the attack has damage or armor piercing, it essentially ignores that 3 and then does the full 6. Very simple and very straightforward. Line of sight, again, this is going to be more kind of common sense thing that we talked about here, like the -2 and -5 for partial and full cover. Throwing explosives, and it says you can throw it in a random direction. It gives like a roll of D8, but if you know where the target is, it's well lit up. You know, just you say you throw in this location, do you hit? Yes, okay, it's in the area. No, okay, it's this far. How far away is it? That can be determined by the DM. Because you don't want to. If you have a creature to the north of you, you're not going to throw it to the south, you know. So, But there's different kinds of explosions and blasts and what they mean. And here's the charts and how big they are. It's going to give you a great example of how this is going to work. So you know, just there's a lot of weapons and stuff on this. There's quite a few. Critical hit and miss charts tables. That's going to happen. So supplier flanking, you know, it's going to add extra damage or extra to hits or the chance to hit. So there's a lot of stuff in here. It talks about more optional rules, but pretty much any rule can be optional. How wounds and injuries work. So if you get too many injuries, like leg impaired, direct hit causes the character lose mobility. You have a -5 to Dex, so that can be then healed up. Critical injury tables. Swollen brain. The character suffers swollen brain injury, -5 intelligence. You know, broken and punctured lung. The character's lung is permanently damaged, -5. So there's lots of tables in this, and this is the zone-based combat, which I talked about. But again, I just use theater of mind and say they're this far away, you're this close. You know, you can kind of. That's how I think most people are used to anyway, playing. There's different conditions. Like we said, there's parasitic infection. Like, so if you want, you can play alien, or if you want to do that. Again, if you are going to play this, I would say basically roll a scenario or have a scenario prepared that everyone's familiar with, just so they know for sure they're going to enjoy it. And then you can then introduce like the station stuff later. You know, get people into it. I think that's the most important thing. Do things in a game that's going to get people into it first, and then introduce maybe the background of this, because like maybe the initial thing of it, people don't want to set up, because there is a particular way of playing when it comes to the station, because you have to report here, you have to go all together, you all have to do things in a certain order. But if you want, you can just get straight into action, like the scenario I talked about, what I done before. I mean, you poisons effects, radiation effects, suffocation, vacuum exposure. There is everything, and there's going to be stress. So we talk about boarding a ship, starting a new mission. You're going out on a small ship. You don't really know what's going to happen. You're getting freaked out. You have +5 stress, automatic. Yeah, but there's also how to negate stress. You can also, like it says here, where's the negate stress? Losing stress. So lashing out, it's going to be -10. So basically start screaming and shouting. But that might draw attention. And then you get into another combat or a situation and it causes more stress. But consequences of stress. So 3 stress is going to give the nervous tick. You're going to go back to the character creation and you're going to have ticks. You're going to apply that. Yeah. And then it has like what they might react negatively to here, and that's going to be more stuff there. But again, I would limit some of this stuff because it can build up quite a lot, and it can be quite messy, especially if you're soloing. Just use some discretion, I'd say. You can get obsessions, again, losing stress, talents and negative talent traits, and you're going to gain a lot. And then talks about hacking, emotions. Again, there's a lot of stuff in here. And choosing the right ship, this doesn't really matter. You have a 1-player ship, 3-player, 5-player. So you can be a single guy going out on your own. You can be a single player with 2 other NPCs, which we go over the creation of later on. Picking a ship name. So there you go. You pick a ship name. You roll it off. Maybe roll for 2 or 3 times. Oh, sorry. You want to roll on this once and then roll on this once. So you can be the Kronos Wicked. Yeah. This game is full of absolute charts. And there's so much going on here. You have your basic survival package and your crew. So you're going to have your supplies, your oxygen survival kit, thruster pack, medical kit, survival scanner, your hazmat suit, vac suit, oxygen pellet. So it's kind of talks about some basic stuff here. You can get into more of the gear later. And then we're talking about travel. Like I said, you can roleplay all this, or you can just say you're going to take X amount of time to get to your location, and you get there. But if you want to go in deep with everything, there's everything here. Ship malfunctions, random event. So you roll your random event, you roll a 2, ship malfunctions. You roll a 1, you have a social event that happens. Doesn't necessarily mean it's negative or positive. There's going to be both. You have mental or physical travel event, space anomaly, a missed jump. Then you might get delayed. You end up being faster or shorter, or you end up there instantaneously to your location. Avoid tracking time and stuff is going to come up in this. Site time, radiation, generating expedition sites. Site locations. It's going to give you everything you need, like the different types of locations, what they are. So prisons, refinery, temples, data ports, starports, power centers, government, tomb, industrial production. There's everything here. You can go into extreme detail. Now this, you can before you play a game, you can sort of set up a situation. Let's say I'm playing with 3 other people, so we're going to play a 3-player game, and it's me. I'm the DM. Okay, beforehand, I'm just going to write up, okay, I'm going to roll this up quickly. There's going to have X amount of sites here. We're going to have to do a lot of travel when we land as well. I have some creatures already created, or maybe I'm going to create some on the spot. I would create creatures beforehand, like when I'd done this with other games. I think I had, was it 3 or 4 standard? So it was 4 easy and standard, 3 elite, and 1 overpowering type encounters with the enemies that I created. So if I had a bunch of easy ones, I could just roll what they are. So again, so there's so much going on here, and it is amazing. So the scripture of the sites, what's going on with stuff about air quality, toxic atmosphere, if it's collapsing, if it's overrun, what's it overrun by, starting areas, connecting areas, small sites, huge sites, encounters, resources, the difficulty. This game covers everything. So this is the crystals. So you can have data crystals. You're going to get 50 coins for that. And alloy cubes, you're also going to gain 75 the coins for that. And it shows up as crucifies D10 or D6 of each of them. And scavenging alien technology, which can then be used to Scavenging alien technology can then be used later on to gain more experience and other stuff like that. Everything can be used to gain experience as well. And talk about the value of artifacts and stuff like that. So it really goes into a ton of detail on everything. Different types of events, anomalies, fixed events. So the following events are more clearly defined. As such, they can quickly become repetitive. So feel free to modify them or come up with your own. So these are going to be simple ideas you can do. So a strange growth covers this room, a moss-like tumor. So maybe you come in and you find there's blood all over the place. Maybe that blood is infected and there's some equipment there. Or maybe the blood's not infected, it's just the room is covered in blood. And then you find out there's a body, there's a weapon or armor or something like that. So it has different kinds of different occurrences, situations that pop up, and nouns and communication, like nouns and for everything. So, yeah. Site construction and exploration example, and a ghost stream example of everything. So if you ever get confused, you can just read this and you're going to understand what's going on and how things are going to be explained better, because there is a lot of information. And we talked about the size of the planet, the biodomes, the amount of oxygen, the climate, everything. Like you can have a lush, lovely environment, or you can have an absolute barren wasteland. And locations don't always have to be planets. You can say you landed on an asteroid like an alien. Again, more biodomes, stuff in the skies. And this is where you're going to be basically rolling out or discovering as you play along what each area is like. These are, what does it say here? I think these are 30 kilometers, so like 24 mile hexes. But yeah, so again, there's and he said another word, there's an absolute ton. You're not going to be bored. You can play this for years and years on, especially if you're super into sci-fi. It talks about designing missions, like how you're going to go about things. The most important duty of a DM is to design interesting sites for players to explore. They can be done by the following steps described in Chapter 4. We basically look over all that stuff. So you can pre-create a lot of stuff, and it does not take a lot of time at all. Like if you have 20 minutes beforehand, you can basically create a very simple landing site, maybe some of the surrounding hexes as well. There you go, done. You have a few monsters you already done previously, or if before you ever play, you can play 20 of each. In your downtime, whenever you're free. Doesn't take much time. And then each time you play, you can just roll randomly. And game master emulation. This is going to be more towards the solo player. So you're going to have simple things like asking questions, what things are going to be done, how you're going to do things, creating scenes, what is likely or most unlikely. It's a great tool to have in here, especially if you've never soloed anything, you're not really sure. Also has, like it says, has a complication show up. A new character or existing character's nature reveals himself, or maybe someone shows up, a new NPC. So you're in a station, you're locked away, you're stuck in a room, you're trying to hack your way, you open the door and there's a new NPC there. Are they a good guy? Are they a bad guy? Are they crazy? Maybe they're infected by a parasite that's going to burst open their chest and they're trying to eat you. I don't know. So surprising events, encounters. Again, this is all going to be emulating because you're emulating DM sort of stuff. This is great if you're not really sure what to do next. If you're solo playing or you've never solo played before, this is going to give you lots of tables you can use. Or if you're just being, like Alex says, a lazy DM, you can use these. And there's a ton of stuff here. Non-player characters, how they're going to react, random conversations, how they're going to be towards you, positive, negative, excited, amazed, bored, disinterested, interested. And you can kind of create missions and stuff within all this stuff by rolling. So you're going to come across a character, like we said, we opened up that door that was locked. We hacked it open. We opened it up. There's an NPC there. We don't know who they are. Maybe they're a good guy. Maybe they're a bad guy. They're infected. We don't know. And maybe they're scared. Okay, they're scared. They don't know what's going on. They've seen people die maybe. And they're grateful that you found them, and they're going to tell you some information. So conversation topic, here you go. Death, he saw a load of people die. You know, his friends. So you can kind of use this stuff to create stuff. And then it has like tables here. Sort of like spark tables. So actions and themes. So action being hunted down by action of hunt and gear. So you're trying to find gear. You know, action resolutions. You're going to roll on what they mean. The Galaxy of Horrors. So creating antagonists. This is going to be very simple, very straightforward. So if you're playing with one crew member, which is going to be players, or yourself, we're just going to say crew member for now, to make things easy. Here is an easy encounter, one easy target. Here's your standard encounter. Here's your elite encounter. Here's an example of them. But then for 3 and 5, so everything is covered very well. Now it's going to have what kind of encounter this could be. So Guardians of Constructs found in essentially all Ashar facilities, which act to protect the said site at any cost. Basically, they're going to be hostile to you. You have different kinds of ones. We're going to go over that later on. Aberrations of creatures that are too strange and mind-bending to be considered fauna. So they could be result of experimentation, either from the ancients or from yourself, or some alien weird creature which has come from some cosmic goo mess and being created. And synthetic, some sort of android. Of course, this is just flavor. You can say it's, you know, whatever. You have local fauna, what that could be, and the sizes. So anything from a cow alligator size is going to give up to a +2 attack bonus, or damage, or down to size of a rodent or house cat with a -2 damage inflicted. So if their attack you'd roll a 1d6, for example, or 1d8, but they're a rodent, you know, that 1d8 becomes a 1d6, or that 1d6 becomes a d4. Essentially, the creature's drive, territory, predation, destruction, or parasitigation. So basically trying to infect you. And here is your basic stat block. Okay, you have an easy, you have standard, you have elite, and overwhelming. Now, then you have the roll. So here is your basic stat. Each of them are going to be increasingly more damage, more powerful, more everything. But then depending on the roll, which you can either roll up with d10, or you can decide, like I said, you're going to be creating things beforehand maybe. Here's the brute stats. You're going to add different like here you're going to add +1 to strength, but you're going to remove -1 from dex and add a +1 to con. So there's +1 strength and -1 dex on a brew of standard. You're going to become a +13 strength and a +11 con. So you can see how this is going. But then, you know, you have a couple here, like you have swarms, so you have a group of creatures swarming. Think of the mummy and the scabs coming along, something like that. But then you can also have unique traits. So maybe that brute is now armored. You roll a 1, he's extra armor. Okay, he's going to be harder to beat. But then he also has the negative defense. So you could roll 2d10, I mean, and determine like that. Or you can just like decide for yourself, depending on how you want to construct things. And you also have enemy abilities. You don't necessarily want to give this to all of them, but most creatures are probably going to have something. And this is how you create uniqueness between stat blocks. So you now have your brute, that's standard. It's going to be completely different from any one that you create. It's such a great idea. And it gives you an idea of like what you can roll up with 1d20 for appearances, what the creature is covered with, you know, a unique feature about the creature. And if you don't like that, you can just say it has psychic creatures here as well. So everything's very well covered. Now, guardians are essentially, like I said, the ancients, creatures, monsters left behind. I like to think of Warhammer 40k, the Men of Iron. So we have a brute version, which is going to be their Titan. The Lurker is like So we look at the Titan. So the Titan is basically a giant creature. It's going to rip you apart. You have your lurker role, which is basically a giant spider. You then have your range guy, which is kind of like Iron Man. You know? And your swarm, which are like, geez, metal bees. I say metal, they don't necessarily have to be, but I like to imagine they are kind of like mostly like a creature that are created. Then you also have known threats in the universe, and you have the Spitter, you have the Clobber, you have the Taker, the Cybane, the Bomber, and the Celestia, I think. And I guess stat blocks, so you can just use these as well. And combat behavior, how they roll. You can also just decide, because some of the stuff it might be they attack like the furthest character away. You know, doesn't necessarily make sense. But yeah, you have morale, stuff like that. And then this talks about more about the station and how things came to be. So that's just basically lower world. And then you have two scenarios. So it gives an outlook on what they are. So the reigns of Felonius, Findius, and it gives the creation stuff, the time of day, how long it is, the temperature, the climate, random tables, and it's straightforward. And the second adventure is Archive of the Mines. It is, I think it's a bit bigger, it's a bit more going on, and it's more complicated, in my opinion. But yeah, it's great. I absolutely love this game. I think it's amazing. Like I said before, this is the game that got me back into playing RPGs. I absolutely love it. I will leave my affiliate link where you can get this on drive-thru, because you can get a print-on-demand copy. I do not think the offsets are available anymore. Maybe you can track one down on eBay, but I don't know. I'm not sure if Alex is getting any more printed. But you can get this in the PDF on his website. So you can use my link if you want to get the PDF on drive-thru or print-on-demand. Or you can go to Alex's site and then you can get the PDF there. Again, I'm not sure if he's doing any more offsets of this, but yeah, it's great. I love it. Again, it got me back into playing RPGs. I had a lot of fun playing a solo, playing with a few other people I knew. Yeah, so if you haven't guessed, most of the stuff I will be reviewing is stuff I like, stuff I play, stuff I have played or just finished playing. I don't think I'll probably be reviewing stuff I don't like, because I just want to share things that I think are cool. That's basically it. I probably will eventually share something that it's kind of like or yeah, I think it's decent, or maybe this type of person would like it. But yeah, that's me, guys. Again, I'll leave a link in the description and in the pinned comment where you can find everything. This has been absolutely amazing. So again, thank you all for checking out my videos. Like I said before, I'm stunned that anyone who wants to listen to my dumb ass. But yeah, I'll talk to you all again soon. Have a good one.